What's up, guys? Happy 1st of October. I hope that you're excited for this new month. I sure am. I love this transition. And as you saw from last week's email about the autumn and the seasonal influence, well, this is a perfect month to really dive into it. But today, I'm not really talking to you about seasonal transitions, but perhaps more hormonal transitions and personal decisions around being on or off the pill. And before we get into that, I want to briefly touch upon the theme of October, October, which is a great month to, cut the booze if that's something you've been thinking about or maybe are thinking about now that I mention it. October has been an initiative that's been around for many years, and it's something that I took upon myself a few years ago to just either cut back or cut out alcohol entirely for the month of October. And it's been a really fun thing to do, especially after a summer of being on the patio with rosé or bubbly or whatnot. And then leading up to before the holidays where champagne tends to flow. So as you know, I love to do cleanses and take different times in the year to either cut a lot of things out or one thing like alcohol, just to notice what impact that might have on my body and my mind, just like how I feel overall. So I just wanted to invite you to consider that for yourself, or maybe there's something else that you're thinking it's time to either cut back or to really focus on. And it's just always a nice way to take care of yourself a little bit better. One thing I love about the October initiative, well, as much as I love my glass of wine, it is nice to cut it back. One, it's a great way to save money, but more importantly than that, sleep really nicely. Your mind is clear the next morning. I know I tend to eat better because when I'm having a little too much wine, then I tend to have a much bigger appetite than I actually have. And may go deeper in the chip bag than I want to. So there tends to be like a ripple effect. So overall is just something I like to do to just press a reset button and be in charge again. So if you want to take part, do it. You can also go check out October and the whole fundraising that goes around it, or you might want to create something with yourself or with some friends and family, or you can adapt it. You can cut out booze during the week, or just have it during events that you've already committed to or something like that. Or you might look inward and see, well, what's the other thing that might benefit my mind and body best this month, and do that. Do your own kind of thing, your own monthly theme. So that's all I wanted to mention on that, is just something I've been mentioning the last few years that I've been taking part and thought it'd be worth sharing since October 1st. And now I want to talk about this topic that's been on my mind that I've hesitated whether I should share it with you or not, but it's been coming back, and I think it'd be worth to see if this does make a difference for you or not, because it's something I think I wish I had information or some inspiration on when I was going through the reflection, and that was whether or not to continue being on the pill or not. And when I say the pill, I'm talking the contraceptive pill. So guys who are watching, you might be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't watch this, but I actually encourage you to stick around and watch it, because you might have a lady in your life who's going through that question, and this might just give you some insight as to the thought process that she might be going through, some hesitations, and maybe some ways you can support as well, because this isn't something that we typically talk about openly. At least that wasn't something I talked about openly, I guess, until now. And, I'm in the stage of my life where a lot of women are either pregnant or wanting to get pregnant, and this conversation is coming up because a lot of women who are on the pill, well, got to go off it if they want to start making babies, right? And so I actually went off the pill about 4 years ago. It was something that I felt internally it was time to do. And I wasn't quite sure. I was debating. I wasn't in a relationship. And for a few years, I think in my 20s, I had kind of yo-yoed on and off the pill. When I was in a serious relationship, I went on it. When I wasn't, I wasn't on it. But I had gone out of a relationship, and I was like, well, the next relationship I'm in, I really want it to be like the real deal. And I was also at a point in my life where I felt that, starting a family was more important to me. And I wanted to also be in a partnership where we were on the same page. And beyond that, there was this part of me that I didn't feel like being on the pill anymore. for my body's sake and also for the desire of starting a family one day. To give you a little bit of backstory, I was put on the pill before I was even sexually active, when I was, I think, 12 or 13. And that's really young. And it was actually a dermatologist that had prescribed it to me because I had pretty bad acne growing up. And at the time, taking the pill was one way to control that, which, looking back, I really wish other alternatives had been presented to me, like talking about my diet or sleep cycles or stress levels. None of that was brought up, like, ever. And actually pretty much never through my traditional doctors, but only when I started getting interested in natural remedies and working with naturopathic doctors were these pieces of conversations, which are huge in affecting your body, were they even brought up. So I didn't, alert myself, or I wasn't aware of the long-term impact of being on the pill for so long. And it just was kind of a given, that you're on the pill, or originally more like when you're sexually active, but because I had acne, I was like, well, it doesn't even matter, just be on the pill. And I stayed on it for a good 10 years before starting that on and off cycle that I did for a little while as well, before arriving to that point where I was like, you know what, I'm done. I was so done. And I actually had asked my osteopath, who's an incredible practitioner who I trust and respect, just wanting to see what his opinion was on this question I had. And, he just simply said, like, if you're asking yourself this question, it might also be your body saying that it's time and that you're ready to get off the pill. And that was just the kind of confirmation I needed to say, yeah, you know what, I'm done. And I haven't been on the pill since then. That was November 2015. And I'm so glad. And it really opened I think I opened my eyes up to more alternatives after that. I'm not someone that's been like ever grossed out by having my period or something like that. I really do appreciate the beauty of the women's cycle. So although, yeah, it can be messy sometimes, I never was ever open to contraception that would make me skip a period or something like that. Like, I really wanted my period every month because it's natural. So I know there's some people that will take things that are even stronger in dosage of hormones that make you skip a period, which to me is kind of alarming because it's just not what Mother Nature intended for us. Now, when I got off the pill, things were pretty fine. I didn't have any symptoms that were alarming to me. I had a pretty regular cycle, and I was only kind of tracking my cycle. Now, a few months later, in the spring of 2016, I did a 40-day raw food cleanse, which was at the time when I decided to jump into coaching full time. And I just kind of wanted to do this kind of cleanse for myself. And I decided to get a couple facials, which I tend to do when I do these bigger cleanses, because your skin is your largest organ, and a lot of your toxins, when you do a cleanse, do come out that way. So it's a nice way to just remove them even more. And the esthetician I went to see was incredible. And she's the one that educated more on the impact that getting off the pill was having on my skin, which I thought was dietary, but it was actually a consequence of having been on the pill for so long. I had so many little acne pimples here on my neck, like all over, but like really small, but everywhere. And for a good year, if not more. And it's still something I have to be mindful of, because I guess your hormones change throughout your cycle. But that was really alarming for me. And after speaking to a few other women who had gotten off the pill, they also shared that that was something that they experienced, but it wasn't something I was aware of. So I took care of that. And I still just have to be mindful of either what I eat, or, I am wearing a turtleneck today, and you will see me with a lot of them over the coming months. But that doesn't tend to influence me too much. I just have to be careful with the moisturizer I use and whatnot. Needless to say, now that the conversation's more open about the contraceptive pill in my circle, I thought this might be something you're thinking about for yourself. And I also was introduced to more natural ways after, like post getting off the pill, that I wish I knew about before. And I started tracking my cycle, not only my menstrual cycle, but my entire cycle, in order to see how I feel emotionally and physically, and adapting my way of scheduling a little bit more. One book that had an influence in that awareness shift was Rise Sister Rise by Rebecca Campbell, where she talks about how she plans her calendar around her own cycle, which I thought was really powerful. And I think the more I've been doing that, I don't really plan my calendar around it. I'm pretty functional during my periods and whatnot, although some women do find it more difficult. So if you are someone who has some really heavy periods or some challenges, maybe you do adapt the way your typical schedule would look like on those weeks or whatnot. So I think it's really interesting for us women to get more in tune. And again, if you're a man watching, this is pretty cool for you to learn also with a partner or just women in your life, because you might think we're crazy, but sometimes we also find it difficult to go through these cycles. The mood swings or whatnot, like I tend to have a good cry month, and it's kind of cleansing once it happens. But needless to say, Rise Sister Rise is a really great book, I think, to align, our needs as women to our innate cycles, but also to use that force in the way we do our lives, and to not hide that from society, but actually use that as a force, because this is what Mother Nature has created for us. One way I track my cycle that I really like is the Flow app. You might have heard of it. It's an awesome app. It's super simple, but you really get some good insights, and some guidelines as well that can just give you some information that you didn't know you needed. And so I've been using that app for a little while, and it's really great. It's pretty bang on, especially if you're regular. And it's really useful when you have to make appointments or whatnot. And you can just plan ahead as well and just see this is how I feel when I'm ovulating. One thing I've learned from that app actually is I have a little bit of cramping before I ovulate, which for about a year I was really worried was related to my colon and my history of colorectal cancer. And I actually went to see my gastroenterologist. And it's only when I started tracking my cycle that I saw, kind of parallels to when I'm ovulating. And then I learned that this does happen to some women. And so it really gave me some peace of mind. So, and although it is something you have to watch out for, I guess, if it gets too serious. But in any case, I think I just want to give you an opportunity to reflect on what you're putting into your body when it comes to contraception. And if there's another alternative that might work for you, you can use the calendar method. Use good old condoms, they're pretty great. And then depending on where you're at in your life, maybe it's time that you and your partner have a conversation, and see what's the best for you two. But I think it's really important to see what's best for you. Remember, this is what you're putting in your body. And that's really important to think about. So if you have been questioning, talk to your doctor, of course. Your doctor is your reference. And this is something I definitely have to say, not because I'm not one. And I'm not telling you what to do here. I'm just inviting you to open yourself up if you're having that reflection, and to know that there are some options out there for you. If you've never consulted with a naturopathic doctor, I highly recommend that you do. If you're in Toronto, check out Marnie Luck. She's amazing. I'll put the link in the written section of this video. But having worked with naturopathic doctors in the past, that's been really helpful, because they really take the time to look at not only the situation why you're coming to consult them about, but what's going on in your lifestyle, with your diet, and other elements of your life that are really important to assess you as a whole person, versus, sometimes the 5 to 10 minutes you might have with a doctor who's overloaded, which is a whole other issue. But that's been my experience, where they don't really have the time to look at, how are things at home? How's your diet? How's your sleep? But when you meet with a naturopathic doctor, they really take the time to take a look at that. So that's another option. Check it out. And so there you have it. I'd love to hear if this is something that was pertinent to you, because I don't really talk about those kind of specifics normally, or whether on the blog or I've been into these video updates for you, since a lot of you mentioned you missed my video updates on Instagram. So I've just been more interested in like women's health lately, and wanted to be a bit more open about this conversation, because I know a lot of women go through it, and hopefully this was helpful for you. With that, I'm gonna take Bolly out for a walk in this rain. Nope, he just lifted his head up. He's ready. All right, guys, I wish you a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.